Curtis, I got to tell you, I got to give you a shout out, my brother. You know why? Curtis is senior policy advisor with America First Policies. You're the one man that translates everything that comes out of the administration as good as Larry Kudlow's great on the air. We love Peter Navarro as well.
Oh, yeah.
Curtis Ellis, you are just crushing it, buddy. Thank you. Well, we look online and you objectively, and the word I always have used these last 6 years on the radio, pragmatically laid out the case. And it's all good for America, Curtis.
Right. It's good for America.
Simple as that. And the president in North Korea, I was so proud of the president when we know what he's doing. You know, I mean, he shook the hand of Kim Jong-un whacked Kim Jong-chol or gave him hard labor. Whatever. President Trump doesn't know this. He knows exactly what he's doing. It was FDR. It was Winston Churchill with Joseph Stalin. It was the same thing. What do you think the end game is with North Korea? What are you feeling, Curtis?
Split them away from China, bring them into basically humanity, bring them into a reasonable. I don't think we're ever going to get them to give up their nukes at this point. That's not the first step. That may be the last step. I've said this for years, that they have this nuclear program as a way to make sure they aren't invaded or there's no regime change, right?
Yeah.
But once actually the end game is the reuniting of the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah.
Once they start making money with South Korea, well, then who needs the nukes anyway?
The fear I have, and we talked with Lieutenant Colonel McGinnis. We'll be talking with Colonel McGregor next week militarily, and learning from Peter Navarro and Gordon Chang. I gone to school on this show, man.
Yeah.
I would have never known this stuff.
This is the Episcopal University.
I tell you what, it is. It's like graduate study in politics because you got to research.
It's the Episcopal School of Government. You don't need the Kennedy School of Government if you got the Episcopal School of Government.
Oh man, no taxes, tax free, by the way.
Right there, you go.
But once
free college for all, starting right here, right here today.
On AM 970,
this hour.
The answer.
I'll try again.
If you call now, friends, use the promo code AM 970. But if you give all that power to Moon Jae-in and to Kim Jong-un, and we step away and put them, I'm afraid, and I think I'm just going along what Peter Navarro would say, or Gordon Chang would say, all of a sudden, wow, you got a unified Korea. Great. Now they're going to go with China, and we're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah, right.
That's a danger, right?
You got to be careful.
Yeah.
That is one of the situations is Korea's supply chains are tied into China. So when we say on this trade stuff, we want to get the supply chains out of China. Look, every investor right now ought to be asking management, have you diversified your supply chains, or are you wholly dependent on China? Because that's not a good place to be, right? But you don't want to move them to Korea, because then you're just snapping together the parts that are made in China. So you want to get them back to the United States.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a problem. We don't want them to go to Southeast Asia. We want these companies to move out of China, but we don't want them to move to Vietnam. We want them to come to the United States. Come to as Julian Castro says, Honduras. Come to Honduras. Come to Guatemala. Build your factories there. Build your factories in the United States. Come to Mexico. Come to the United States. That way we solve all kinds of problems. First, come to the United States. We put Americans to work. And if you can't come to the United States and you're looking for cheaper labor, go to Mexico, go to Central America, so those people aren't coming here in droves.
Full disclosure, so funny, 11 minutes after 9 o'clock with Curtis Ellis with Joe on the radio, is Mike Gallagher just told me, Nike came out with these patriotic sneakers.
My gosh.
It was great, and I loved it. Then he had the symbol of the colonial American flag.
Right.
This is great. I'm thinking, boom, boom, boom. We can't do that because there might have been slaves around that era. Now we can't use that flag.
Newsflash, there might have been slaves in America.
So Colin
in case you didn't know.
Mike
what are they teaching in school these days?
You got to listen to Mike at 10 o'clock. I know. He goes, Colin Kaepernick, apparently the president of Nike now. But
right.
And I've been railing on this show that Nike, all that they always go about police brutality, the whole argument that Colin Kaepernick, why he kneels at the national anthem is flawed. It's not police brutality. The police go into the stressed areas of the United States of America on domestic violence calls, taking their lives in their hands, protecting those citizens first and foremost. You never hear about it. Colin Kaepernick saying police brutality. Give me a break.
I want to see Colin Kaepernick try to kneel, if he was in China, kneel during the national anthem of China. How long would there be a Colin Kaepernick?
Very good point. Very good point.
Or in Vietnam, where Nike makes all their shoes.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. They do slave labor. Now they're coming to Arizona. The governor of Arizona said, get out of here. We don't want you. After all of that. because they should be embarrassed that they don't use American labor, yet lecture us socially over at Nike.
The other side says, well, the pro Colin Kaepernick side, well, freedom, he has the right to kneel during the national anthem.
Tell that to a veteran.
Exactly. By the same token, the flag gives him that right, so he should respect that flag.
Oh, please. Listen, out of the G20, Curtis Ellis, what other stories do we have? Tariffs in place. President Xi, the conversation with President Trump, President Xi went well?
Look, President Xi, before they went into that discussion, the Chinese government, this was not an unnamed anonymous source, they put out that they want Huawei, the telecommunications spy agency that's masquerading as a phone company, they wanted Huawei taken off the blacklist.
That was the best description of Huawei, man. That's great. Masquerading as a phone company.
Right.
They're just all-out spies. That's all they are.
That's all they are. It's the telecommunications arm of the People's Liberation Army, right? It's the cyber espionage arm of the PLA. They wanted Huawei taken off the blacklist. They wanted all the tariffs removed, and they wanted Grace Meng, or whatever her name is. No, Grace Meng's she's the congresswoman from Queens. No, Meng something, the Huawei executive who's being held in Canada, wanted her released before they would even go back to the negotiating table. Yeah. President Trump gave them none of that. None of that. The 25% tariffs are in place. Huawei stays on the blacklist, and she stays in jail in Canada. So he gave them nothing but a face-saving way to come back to the table by saying, okay, I won't put tariffs on that other $300 billion worth of goods for now. And he said, I think it's very interesting. This has been overlooked. Yeah. Indefinitely postponed. Indefinitely. Now, what do we hear all the time on CNBC and all these places? Business wants certainty. Business wants certainty. Well, they ain't getting no certainty. The certainty they're getting is that the president could put tariffs on China any moment now, could hike them further than where they are. So that's a message to these businesses, these corporations. Get out of China. You get out of China. You've got the breathing room now. A couple more weeks of these negotiations which are going to lead to nothing, because the Chinese are based on theft. The Chinese Communist Party is based on theft and stealing and all this
funniest
bad
thing
stuff.
I talked to, you're listening, if you're watching, I've always said the Chinese representative came to me and said they thought I was running for office, so they said, we want to build the Gateway Project. And I've talked about it very openly on this program, so I was going to go to some politicians who are actually, proponents of the Gateway Project, and the Chinese want to come in. So I say, because I was very, very suspicious, just having to talk with Gordon Chang. And Gordon will give you the heads up.
I just saw him yesterday. Man, he's no holds barred.
Oh, please. So I go, so what do we have to do to have this P3 partnership between New York, New Jersey, and China to build the Gateway Project? I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to make this work. They go, we want you to use our subway cars that are made in Massachusetts. So then, of course, the story breaks where they're putting all kind of computer, possibly cyber hacking abilities within the cars, man. You got to be careful of that stuff, too.
Exactly. And if suddenly the subways stop working... Oops, somebody threw the kill switch. They pulled the emergency brake in Beijing, and now all the subway cars in America stop working.
It's so true. And aren't we making
De Blasio wants to have them put subway cars in New York. What could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah. You know what? I wasn't aware of it till I talked to you, till I talked to Peter Navarro, till I talked to Gordon Chang. But are they making some military parts, too, I heard? The Chinese are making military parts for some of our weaponry?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when does it...
I know. This is insane. There are so much of our military. We've lost so much of the manufacturing that we are now dependent on foreign sources for everything. The aluminum that goes into aircraft carriers comes from China.
But that's crazy.
It's crazy. Absolutely
And this
crazy.
is what the president wants to change.
Exactly. Look, the end game here is to get the industry, to reindustrialize America. You've talked about that.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
yes, sir.
Patterson, New Jersey
man,
could use a little industry.
Come on.
And that's where we have to get. The first step is getting them out of China to realize, look, these businesses, these corporations, they decoupled from the United States, moved everything to China. Yeah. And you never want to be, if you're a responsible corporate manager, you don't want to be dependent on a sole supplier because they can just jack up the price. They've got you by the short hairs.
It's so true. And what about tariffs that the president seems to be threatening? More tariffs on Europe now? Is that going to happen?
we will see. This again is the negotiation. Europe has been they run a surplus with us. We have a deficit with Europe. Europe has high tariffs. Europe is very careful. They don't run the deficit with China. And one of the things that happens is China dumps steel into the European Union. The European Union then turns around and dumps their steel into our country. There's a huge imbalance. Every country on earth has been using America as a piggy bank, really. We have been the market of last resort, and that's got to change. This started at the end of World War II when Europe was a mess. It was a smoking ash heap. And
Who saved them?
We saved them. We saved them. We saved them twice. We saved them on D-Day, and we saved them after the war by letting them rebuild by selling their stuff into America. Okay, that was great. Worked fine. That was 75 years ago. Okay, done.
Yeah. That's true. And President Nixon going to China, which was monumental, but that kind of opened the floodgate to everything coming from China and from Japan into America. And this president's trying to reverse that.
Exactly. Rebalance it. And he made that very clear when he was sitting there. Rebalance the trade relationship between the United States and China. And we can't forget, what is China up to here? They want to replace that international order that we set up, the United States and our allies. After World War II, we created this international order, Western values. They want to replace that with a world order run by the Chinese Communist Party.
Wow.
And that is not a pretty picture.
You got to, if you Google Curtis Ellis, a senior policy advisor with America First Policies, breaking it down, making all the sense in the world. Whew, a lot to get into, man. And we were talking to you before you even went to America First Policies.
That's right.
You were on top of all this.
Thanks to Frankie.
Frankie Five Boroughs is the man. And thank you for enlightening us this morning, Curtis. Always.